Countdown Conspiracy, Chapter 17, Part 2. Now to find Tamaki and see what he thinks about landing Ambassador on Earth. On Earth? Anna floats in behind us. So we don't want to go to Mars. We all fall silent, slowly turning to face her. Anna's expression is stone cold, as usual, but her skin is much grayer. Or maybe that's my imagination. Well, Raheem begins cautiously, if we put our minds to it, we could find a way home to, and give up on going to Mars? Anna crosses her arms. No, Najma says. We can rebuild Ambassador once we land her. I could what? Tamaki asked, joining the group. Land us on Earth, Raheem says. You're the superstar pilot, aren't you? Wait, so we're going home now? Tamaki pulls himself toward us. I thought we were going to Mars. We decided we'd like to get home to our families, I say, rather than die on Mars. To my great relief, Tamaki nods. Well, good. Were we ever seriously considering Mars anyway? Anna spins toward him, and I can see her eyes glisten. So you don't care either? No one here cares about finishing our mission? She looks around at each of us. What mission, Anna? I ask. This wasn't supposed to be a mission. This was a training exercise. Our mission isn't for nearly another decade. No, it isn't, she bites back. You know that. We all know that. She continues to spin around, glaring at each of us. This is it. The space program is over for a long, long time. But we can prove to them that they can't take everything away from us. We still have Mars. If we all work together, we can get there. For once, her glare isn't menacing, but desperate. Anna, I say slowly, I'm sorry, but we don't want to die. Ruby's head turns back and forth as I shake mine. Don't you want to see your family again? Najma asks. I only have one person in my family. Anna's face darkens. My father. And he won't want to see me again if I fail at this. She floats in place, and a long silence falls on us all. She can't mean that, can she? Anna, Najma begins tentatively. I'm sure that isn't true. What do you know? Anna snaps. None of you have your priorities straight. You think your families are going to be proud when you get home? When you mess up your one chance to go to Mars? When you fail? It's better than being dead, Tamaki shrugs. I don't know, Anna. I think you've got space madness or something. You aren't making sense. You have no idea, do you? Anna glowers at Tamaki. No idea what it's like to be under pressure all day, every day. You with your carefree solar car racing lifestyle. Are you joking? Tamaki floats up to stare down at her. Pressure? You're talking to me about pressure. Who's the celebrity here? So you've got your father's expectations to live up to. I've got an entire country's expectations on me, and you don't see me ready to die for that. Fine. Anna's eyes fill rapidly. You all think I'm crazy. Then do what you want, but don't expect any help from me. With that, Anna pulls herself out of the main cabin via the piping, muttering in German. I stare after her. I can't imagine my parents wanting me to go to Mars and die rather than trying to come home. Does her dad really feel that way? I just can't believe it. I shake my head. Listen, if we're going to go home, we need to figure out how. Tamaki doesn't take his eyes off the door that Anna disappeared through. It's a moment before he speaks up, and when he does, his tone is flat. The good news is that we've pretty much been traveling alongside Earth so far. He turns back to us. Our flight path matches fairly closely. If we cease our outward momentum, we can get to the point where we match exactly. Then we just boost a new vector. I've already done the math hours ago, but I imagine the vectors in my head once again, trying to convince myself it's possible with the fuel we have. Like before, though, as I crunch the numbers, I'm just not seeing it. Tamaki, we'll need almost all our fuel just to stop. We don't want to stop, Miranda, Tamaki begins. You know what I mean, I cut him off. We need to stop moving away from Earth. That vector has to stop. The other one can keep going. I grab a console, roll up its screen, and use my fingers to trace out what I'm talking about. I draw a circle for Earth, a dot for us, and 2 arrows leaving the dot. One arrow is pointed in the direction that Earth is traveling. That's the bigger arrow. The other shorter arrow is pointing perpendicular away from Earth. Then I trace a 3rd arrow, this one also leaving our dot. But between the 2 arrows already there, I point at the 3rd one. So here's our actual path. Everyone nods. Well, everyone except Esteban. Najma grabs him by the arm and gently guides him into our makeshift circle. What we need to do is stop this arrow. I point at the 2nd arrow. The short one taking us away from Earth. But the vector taking us along with Earth, I point at the 1st arrow, is fine. We don't have to do anything to that one. What we do need to do is start up again in the opposite direction, and that's what worries me. I don't think we have enough fuel for that. It's going to be close, Tamaki agrees. But remember, we have solar panels. We can use those if we need an extra dose of energy. Right, I scribble on the screen, re-crunching my numbers. I'd forgotten about the solar panels. They just might be our ticket home. I let out a deep breath before allowing myself to get too excited. So that's 1 kilowatt per meter squared. I drag myself over to my seat and strap myself in. I'm going to need a few minutes. Tamaki, give me anything you can on what our solar panels can do for the ion engines. No problem. Raheem, you need to make sure whatever we do won't kill us. How fast is too fast to stop for our bodies to handle, and for the life support systems? Raheem nods. I have some preliminary data on that already. I'll get that ready for you. And Najma, you and Esteban keep trying to get into the full system. We need to contact Earth. We have to tell them we're okay, and if we have time, try to run our plan by actual engineers. We're only going to have one shot at this, I say. Right, Najma goes back to her console, tugging Esteban along with her. He doesn't object. I'll figure out what we physically need to do to get our rockets turned and those solar panels unfurled. I think of the origami-style folded panels on the side of our space plane. They aren't meant to be used yet. Nothing is, but we don't have a choice, and Ruby can take inventory of the smaller cryo tanks. I send my mechbot away, and everyone sets to work. The sooner we figure this out, the easier and faster it will be to get home. Numbers fly past my face as I fling them from console to console. It's not looking good. Tamaki, you got anything for me yet? Working on it, Tamaki says from his seat. Okay, I reply. Just know it's what I thought. We have enough fuel to stop, which will eat up the vast majority of our supply. Then we'll have enough for about 82% of the energy required to start up again in the opposite direction. We're 18% short. I'll see what I can do, Tamaki says, but no promises. Over at her console, Najma encourages Esteban in his work. I notice a couple of lines of code get executed, and he does appear to brighten up temporarily. Great job, Esteban, I call over. See? Things will be okay. At that, Esteban freezes. Then he slowly turns to look at me. How can you say that? I flinch. What? How can you say that? Esteban asks again. How? The words are spilling out now like the oxygen leak on Apollo 13. How can any of this be okay? How are you okay? How have you been okay ever since that helicopter exploded? How? Esteban, Najma puts an arm out. No, he twirls, his usually bright eyes manic. People are dead. People died. Because of us. How can we just keep pushing on when that kind of thing can happen? Why are we trying to return to a place where that kind of thing can happen? With that, Esteban shatters in front of us. Najma offers him a hand, and after a moment's pause, he grabs back for her, pulling her close and letting her hold him as he lets out huge, racking sobs. Tamaki gestures. I tear my eyes away, and he, Raheem, and I all leave the cockpit. There's still work to be done on the life support systems, so at least for a few moments we quietly decide to switch gears and let Esteban finish his breakdown in peace. Najma sends us an all-clear message about 45 minutes later. The three of us rejoin her and Esteban in the cockpit, and I'm immediately relieved to find Esteban wearing a toned-down version of his familiar smile. "Hey guys," he says, a little sheepishly. "I'm sorry if I freaked you out. Najma and I talked, and I'm doing a lot better now. It's upsetting, the whole thing." "It is," Rahim agrees. "I usually try to see the good in things," Esteban says with an encouraging nod from Najma. "But that's not always easy." "We're all dealing with it in our own way," Najma says. "You don't have to put on a brave face for us." Esteban nods, then he turns to me. "I don't know how you've managed to hold up so well all this time, Miranda. I'm seriously impressed. Knowing people died because of—" "Yeah, it sucks," I say, sharing a glance with Rahim. He gives me a faint smile. "I'm glad we had a chance to talk." "It does," Esteban agrees. "Anyway, I'm sorry for yelling earlier. I don't like to yell." "Hey, yelling can help," Tamaki says. "Being cheerful all the time is truly a superpower only you seem to wield," Rahim adds. "Thanks, everyone." He smiles at each of us, and especially you. He looks at Najma, who flushes deeply. "I owe you." There's a mutual silence for a moment in the main cabin, until Tamaki coughs. "So, back to work?" Tamaki asks. "Back to work," Esteban agrees, mustering a grin and fist-pumping Tamaki. All of us head to our stations, diving once again into our efforts to prepare the ship for turning around and heading home. Esteban throws himself into his work with the single-minded purpose of getting our communications back as quickly as possible. He's got his console ripped open on one side, yanking wires and rerouting systems. The other side flashes code that's completely incomprehensible to me, but must make sense to him because he keeps updating it. Rahim, Tamaki, and Najma are all engrossed at their own stations, and I spend my time running the numbers over and over to make sure the calculations for what fuel we need to stop are correct. I've given up on waiting for Anna to join us, which hurts more than I thought it would. She's a part of this team. She should be in here with us, but she's chosen not to be, and I shouldn't waste time wondering why. But I am. After a couple of hours of mind-melting work, Ruby skitters back into the cockpit, her fuel assessments in hand, or rather in pinching mechanical appendage. She clips herself to my flight suit and feeds me the numbers. As I'm entering them, Najma pipes up.